Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? We have breaking news, breaking news. Now, this is word on the street, but I do have one confirmation from Russian news feed that I actually found after receiving this from one of our very reliable sources who always gets out ahead of the mass media. This is word on the street, unconfirmed, but kind of confirmed, basically. Let me say what it is. I'm going to read to you the email I just received from this very reliable source. I cannot give this source out. Russia reports 2 Turkish Navy subs have surrounded a missile cruiser from Moscow. On this today, November the 30th, the vicinity of the Guards missile cruiser called the Moskva. It's spelled M-O-S-K-V-A. Moskva. That's the name of the cruiser, covering the Russian base in the Syrian city of Latanka, are at least two submarines of the Turkish Navy have them surrounded. Now, that's also the word on the street is being told also in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, I have a news feed that says these words. This is a Russia news feed. It says Turkish submarines began tracking Russian guided missile cruiser, the Moskva, which is spelled, again, M-O-S-K-V-A, just off the Syrian coast. So the Turks are now surrounding Russian missile cruisers just off the coast of Syria. And why is Turkey aggressively, you might say, well, why is Turkey being aggressive towards Russia if Russia was there to bomb ISIS? But then again, Turkey says they're there to help bomb ISIS, but the only thing we've ever seen the Turks do is bomb the Kurds. I'm sorry. And it is Turkey that shot the Russian plane out of the sky and shot the rescue helicopter. And it's been the Turkmen of northern Syria that shot the missile and wounded the 3 Russian journalists. And when Turkey shot the Russian Su-24 warplane out of the sky right along the Syrian and Turkish border, they then killed one of the pilots as they were coming down in parachutes by shooting him. Then they blew up with a missile, they blew up the Russian rescue helicopter, killing another person there. Now they are surrounding the Russian missile cruiser. Now, if Russia's off the coast of Syria because they're attacking ISIS, then why is Turkey shooting them down and now surrounding their sub? Folks, this is, of course, word on the street, but I've got a source here. I mean, I'm reading it. I'll read it to you. There are at least 2 Turkish Navy submarines in the area. And this says they are tracking the Russian cruiser. But the word on the street is they're surrounding it. And these 2 Turkish submarines have this missile cruiser surrounded, which it can't get away. There's 2 on it. So, folks, things are ratcheting up while there's a climate chaos. It's 500 days until climate chaos, and Obama and my friend John Kerry are going to come together in Paris, France. 500 days to climate chaos. I really believe that that's a code word for the real chaos. It's a smokescreen for the real chaos, and that is the Middle East and the situation developing there right now. As the Middle East is literally, the entire region is up for grabs, and Israel knows it. And Israel's saying, we know it, and we know eventually they're turning on us. And there's Bible prophecy to back that up in Ezekiel 38 and 39, Psalms 83, and Zechariah 12, and Zechariah 14. And Jesus even said, when you begin to see the armies compassed about Jerusalem, know that these things that are written shall be fulfilled, for these are the days of vengeance. And folks, if we're ever living in a days of vengeance, it's right now. I'm serious. What? Are you seriously listening to what I'm trying to say? We have sanctions. Russia's put heavy sanctions on Turkey for shooting down their warplane. Turkey is still pursuing. Why aren't they pursuing ISIS? Because there's rumor on the street, word on the street is that Erdogan's son has been buying the ISIS oil cheap on the black market. And that's why Turkey's interest, self-interest, is to keep ISIS going. And while they're at it, smack the Kurds a little while they at. Matter of fact, Turkey just took an entire Kurdish city in Turkey. Are you serious? Are you serious? Well, folks, we told you earlier today in one of our videos and during our live show that the International Monetary Fund was involved in potentially all of the markets were looking at a new reserve currency. Well, the IMF executive board has just completed a review of the SDR basket, and it will include the Chinese currency. Matter of fact, let me take you right now. The New York Times has a report. I'll play it now on the announcement. Then I'll read to you the International Monetary Fund memo, and let me break it down for you.
The IMF's executive board decided that the renminbi qualified for the SDR basket under existing criteria. The addition and the inclusion of the renminbi in the SDR basket of currencies is a recognition of the significant reforms which have been conducted, of the significant opening up of the Chinese economy, of the financial, more market-driven principles that are being used by the Chinese authorities going forward. That is clearly symbolic, in a way, of all those reforms, which is why as I associated the renminbi's inclusion with the reforms conducted and to be continued.
So basically what the story is here is that no, we do not have an announcement of a new reserve currency replacing the dollar. Not yet. But instead, this might be step one. I think step one was actually the summer when the new BRIC nations formed, and we're talking about bringing forth a new currency. The BRIC nations, of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Now, they have come together and formed a new coalition of a currency. They haven't brought forth a new currency, but they have formed a new banking system similar to the IMF, and that's the International Monetary Fund, which is supposed to be lending money out to especially impoverished nations to help balance out the global scale economy. We know that today the 145 world leaders were in Paris, France, talking about climate change. But no doubt, you don't get 145 world leaders together just to talk about smog and fog and carbon footprint of a hog. I mean, that's not what they're talking about. Syria, the Middle East region, no doubt, and mostly they're talking about the reserve currency. And let me just read to you right now, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, today just completed the regular 5-yearly review of the basket of currencies that make up the special drawing right. And now China has been added to the basket. Now, who's in the basket? Well, this is who they are. There were 4 currencies: the United States dollar, the euro, the Japanese yen, and the British pound. Those were the 4 currencies that make up the basket. Those are the 4 that set the bar, if you will. Well, now the IMF has added a 5th currency, and that is the Chinese currency. And so what we're going to see here now, I believe it's, again, we've had the BRIC nations have already formed, and now and China's in that BRIC: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That's the BRIC. Now China's added to the basket, and next is the Chinese currency might be what replaces the US dollar as the world reserve currency, or they'll leave the dollar in another year maybe and bring forth a new world currency, which could either come from the basket, which could be called the the New World Order dollar, the Illuminati, the Illuminadollar, whatever you want to call it, or it could come from the BRIC nations. I don't know. But we're seeing, folks, watch what I'm telling you. You can't get 145 nations to come together like you are this weekend in Paris, France, unless it's something big. And I'm telling you, Paris, France is where this attack was done by these radical Islamic jihadists. And now the nations, the leaders of the world are there. They are pulling together to create, I believe, the New World Order. It's the beginning of the Mark of the Beast system. Not the Mark of the Beast yet, but the system itself. The technology exists. Believe me, the technology is ready to go. I've talked to federal employees who have they have seen it, and it's seen it tested. They know there is a microchip technology system that is absolutely theft proof as long as you use biometrics. It ties in, your DNA ties into the chip, or it won't work. Without you, it won't work. In other words, without it, this mark, you can't buy or sell. So the technology that could be used for the Mark of the Beast is ready to go. Now the currency must be chosen. And then I believe the third thing you'll see will be the New World Order itself. And so this is how quickly we're advancing, folks, in these last days. Big news here. And we'll keep her, again, I've talked to JP Morgan Chase Bank, several high-level bank employees, and a certain employee for sure who told me, I will not reveal her name, but that certainly the new software being released out to the banks do not have the U.S. dollar as the automatic world reserve currency. It's blank. In other words, whatever currency needs to be added in could. And now that doesn't mean the U.S. dollar won't be put in there, but they're talking about it right now, folks. John F. Kerry brought it up when the Iranian nuke deal was being hammered out. At one point, he said, guys, if we back off and not do this Iranian nuke deal, they may just pull the dollar out and it no longer will be the world currency, the new reserve world currency. They may pick another one. He said it himself. I sat and watched him say it. So you got to hear me when I'm telling you. The New World Order is coming. The spirit of the Illuminati, the biblical beast, is about ready to rise. The black horseman of the apocalypse is galloping